Good evening, namaste. Very warm welcome to all the attendees who have joined today. Welcome you all to the second Best Talk session today. And we are really glad to see so many young minds joining the session. And it absolutely shows how much our youth is ignited actually to bring a change and work towards this matter. And we are still people joining in and greeting and I just want to say that before starting the session, I would say Best Talks initiative, like Lung Care Foundation started the Best Talks initiative to interact with you, with all the youth and the students in a way that empowers you to carry out and lead their way to make difference. And also we try and guide them to build a sense of social responsibility and facilitate overall personality development of the students. So the students joining in, we are trying to guide them to become the next leaders, trying them to empower to carry out their initiatives to make a difference. We started the initiatives initially during when the lockdown started in the month of March. We have conducted almost 20 plus FB Live sessions on different topics for the holistic development of students. And now we are focusing on a more skill-based session where we'll be guiding you all how to learn new things and to implement to make a difference in the society. The team today is Climate Action 101, and we are really glad to announce that this session is in collaboration with New Delhi Hub, Kolkata Hub, and Bangalore Hub of Global Shapers Community, which is an initiative of World Economic Forum. We have expert speakers from these hubs who are specially trained by Climate Reality Corps, an international organization started by former US President Al Gore. And before we start the session formally, I would like to invite Ketan Thorat. Ketan is a scientist at Department of Biotechnology, Government of India. He's a global shaper from Bangalore Hub of Global Shapers Community. I would like to invite Ketan to brief about Global Shapers Community and how the community has been promoting such subject matters like climate action and various other initiatives. Over to you, Ketan.
Thank you, Judith, for such a wonderful introduction. I invite all of you to this session today on behalf of Global Shapers Community New Delhi Hub. And as already mentioned by Judith, Global Shapers Community is an initiative of World Economic Forum. This community is made up of more than 430 hubs spread across 150 cities across the world, having more than 9,500 active shapers and around 3,000 alumni. The entire idea of global shapers community is to identify the change makers in local regions and put them together and build on exploring the power of teams. So if you can put social impact leaders in on the same team and then explore how they can work together to solve local issues. So as I am a part of New Delhi Hub, similarly Sanjana is a part of Bangalore Hub and Ajay is a part of Kolkata Hub. One interesting fact about Bangalore Hub is Deepika Padukone was also a shaper with Bangalore Hub for a while before she moved out of Bangalore. And at New Delhi Hub, we have multiple projects going right now, which includes a project on sustainable menstruation called Let's Talk Period. We have a project on mental health called Mind Matters. We have a project on initiating a dialogue on partition and its impact on families. and how it is continuing. It's called Partition Perspectives, and we have a project on domestic violence as well. So, uh, today's session is a part of our sustainable living project. We are really looking forward to this. I'm sure Sanjana and Ajay will uh, guide us through not only the problem of climate change, but also as an individual, as a student as well, how all of you can also drive this fight against climate change. So really looking forward to this. With this, uh, over to you, Judith.
Thank you so much, Ketan. Thank you so much for sharing informations and initiatives about Global Shapers community, like how you're working. It's working amazingly. The initiatives, kind of initiatives that have been taken up on climate actions and many such other initiatives, and it is really commendable. Now, without any delay, I would like to introduce our keynote speakers for the day. And before that, before starting the presentation, I would like to inform all the attendees that you can share your questions on the Q&A tab, and I'll request all to share the questions in the Q&A tab, so that if you share it on the chat box, it can get, like, we won't be able to track it down with all the messages that have been coming up. So I'll request you all to share the question that you have for the speakers in the Q&A tab only. You can definitely interact and share your views and inputs in the chat box, but share your questions in the Q&A tab. So I would like to introduce our keynote speakers for the day, Ajay Mittal and Sanjana K. Ajay Mittal, in his current role, is the Director, India and South Asia Climate Change Programs for Earth Day Network. He is member and part of the Climate Action Steering Committee of Global Shapers Community. He was trained to be a climate reality leader at Brisbane, Australia in 2019. And in 2017, he initiated the movement called Kolkata Clean Air, which started as a campaign and has taken shape into a fast-growing organization by the name of Active Citizen for Sustainability, working towards building a sustainable city. And Sanjana K is a legal professional with experience in civil and criminal litigation, environmental law, gender and climate justice, real estate matters, and alternative dispute resolution. She is currently working as a legal manager at HDFC Limited. She heads the environment and climate action vertical at the Bangalore hub of the Global Shapers community of the World Economic Forum. She was selected as a part of the World Economic Forum's delegation and trained as climate reality leader at Los Angeles, USA by Al Gore in 2018. I invite you both to enlighten us with your presentation. Over to you, Ajay and Sanjana.
Thank you, Judith. I think we can start now. I'll just share my screen. Thank you for that introduction, Judith. To start off, let me tell you all that we'll be talking about climate change and exploring what is climate action and understanding the basics of what's happening around us, basically. And we'll also be seeing, are we just looking at problems today? Definitely no. We are also going to explore and see what can we do about it, and is there anything at all that we can do or not, okay? So let me begin. As you all can see, this is the first picture of Earth fully illuminated that any of us ever saw. It was taken on one of the last of the Apollo missions, and it changed the way that humanity thought about our common home. It reminds us that we all are connected and that our actions have an impact on our planet, okay? So I think with regard to climate change, we've heard so much about this crisis. The only three questions remaining are, must we change, can we change, and will we change? So let's explore the first question, must we change? But before that, I'd like to know from all of you all as to what you think about the crisis. And Judith, can we have the poll up, please?
Yeah, it is up, Sanjana. And
yeah.
They're still voting and the voting is being counted.
Yeah, next question, please. So the three main questions are, must we change? Can we change? Is there anything? Okay, most of you all feel we should change, all right? The next question we wanted to ask all of you all is, can we change? Is there an option for us? do you think we can change? I think, did we put up the same question again?
No, it's must be changed, and next is the can be changed. Yeah, now it's visible, can be changed. Yeah.
Yeah. And the third and final question would be, will we change? Can we see the poll results? Most of you all feel that we can change. Okay. The third and the last question, will we change? Hope all of you have selected your options. Can we see the result? Amazing. So most of you all feel we will change. Okay, that's we're starting off on a very positive note then. Judith, the next question would be, are they aware about global warming? You could put that up.
Yeah. It is out, Sanjana.
Okay, let me know once the results are out.
Yeah, sure. They're still voting.
Okay.
And 72, 73. They're still voting. The attendees are still voting.
Okay.
Yes. So 97% people are saying yes to the poll question, Sanjana.
Okay, that's amazing then. We are on a good start. Okay. So as most of you are aware, global warming is a phenomena which helps the earth trap its heat, and which is also one of the key factors for the life on earth to sustain. Okay. And how is this turned into a problem? Going forward, we'll have a look at that. So now, as you can see, the sky is not a vast and limitless expanse the way it appears to us when we stand and just look up above, right? In reality, it's just a thin shell of atmosphere surrounding the planet. And we are dumping 110 million tons of man-made global warming pollution into the atmosphere every 24 hours. Every 24 hours. And what's causing this, and what are the biggest sources of greenhouse gases? There are so many: coal mining, thawing of permafrost, coal plants, crop burning, and a lot of these like that. But what is the biggest source? I'm sure most of you will be able to guess this as well. The largest source of global warming pollution is the burning of fossil fuels. And this is fossil fuels still provide more than 80% of world's energy, and you can see this from this graph. And since World War II, this has dramatically gone up. And notice in the last few years, though, there has been a slight drop, and we'll see how we are adapting to cleaner technologies and solutions going forward. So this is also resulting in global temperatures rising dramatically over the past few years, and 18 of the 90 hottest years on record have been in the last few years, as you can see. And these are the only ones that have been recorded. And I think 2000 last 5 years have been the hottest of all, and 2016 was the hottest, if I'm not wrong. And you can see this picture. We all know how summers are in India, and heat itself is a problem in many parts of the world. We are one of the very few countries which really bear the brunt of it, and most of the population is affected by this. And heat does not just affect people, but it also affects animals, crops, and weather. So global ocean content is also increasing along with this, and on a global basis, more than 90% of all the extra heat energy trapped by our atmosphere is going into the oceans. And what is this resulting into? This heat makes ocean-based storms like hurricanes, typhoons, and cyclones stronger and more destructive. You can see these are just some of the examples of hurricanes which have happened, and the category of this is category 3, which means these were really destructive and strong. So this is also affecting the whole hydrological cycle itself. And so what is happening to the extra heat is that it disrupts the amount of water vapor that evaporates off into the oceans, and it affects the precipitation. That is, the water vapor carried over the land often falls in much bigger precipitation events, that is heavier rainfalls, when most of these are not absorbed by the land, right? These result in larger storms and downpours, and as well as floods and mudslides. And because of all the concretization we have, it definitely results in a lot of flooding and waterlogging everywhere. And these precipitation events are becoming very common of late. And you can see this is a photo from 2019 in England. And so the extra heat, as I just explained, is not just resulting in heavier precipitation, but it's also resulting in droughts. You might feel that these are two extreme events and how are these two connected, right? But they are, because what happens is there is excess heat and there is excess evaporation that takes place, and this results in droughts as well. This results in deeper droughts, actually, not just the common droughts which were there. And these droughts are also extended over longer periods. So this is how it is affecting the land and the atmosphere. This you can see in Chennai. This is a 2019 picture. And Chennai is India's one of the largest cities. And as you all know, we almost ran out of water, right? So, and not just droughts and heavier rainfalls, but it also affects in typically more fires. And these are not natural, but and very few of these are man-made, as in where there was a human intervention or someone caused the fires, but the conditions are very, very suitable for a fire to just take off. So, we also have like recent examples of fires in California, most of Australia and New Zealand getting burnt, and Africa, Amazon forest, and I think it's been very devastating. We've lost a lot of green cover over a period, and this also results in extreme weather catastrophes, mudslides, storms, droughts, fires. So climate change doesn't affect just one portion of the world, one country, or one city, but it leads into a series of extreme climate events. And these are some of the examples, and you can see that there has been a drastic rise from 1980s to 2016. We can see that these events have been on a rise. And is that all? But no, there are the ice caps are melting, and the declining ice mass is resulting in a lot more water moving into the oceans and rivers. So this is another major issue. You can see that this was a major ice block which was there in Greenland, and it rapidly dissolved. And so this is one of the examples again. On July 31st, 60% of the surface of Greenland's ice sheet experienced melting, losing more than 10 billion tons of ice in a single day. And this is actually massive. This has not happened over decades, over centuries, but this happened on just one day, on July 31st. You can imagine what's happening to Earth through all of this. This is resulting in, flooding on very normal days. This is a very normal day, no rainfall, not a very rainy weather, but then the coasts are flooded. This is just one example. If we have to relate it to our own country, you can see that sea level has been raising, and by population, if you want to take Kolkata, Mumbai, and a lot of South Asian cities are, on the radar here. So it's not a remote problem. It is happening right here. And top 10, if you take it in terms of top 10 cities at risk from sea level rise by 2070, Kolkata, Mumbai are on top. It means India is at highest risk. We all are at risk. And in 2014 itself, US Department of Defense had declared that climate change will likely lead to food shortages and water shortages, pandemic diseases, I hope that rings a bell, and disputes over refugees, and natural global disaster in regions across the globe. I think this has turned out to be true time and again. We are in the midst of a pandemic, and if we cannot link it to what's been happening around us, I don't know. I think we're just turning a blind eye to what's around us. So this all these don't just affect humans or people and just the environment as such, but it also affects the biodiversity and the crop yield. So crops are becoming very heat sensitive and climate sensitive, and the yield is coming down because of the increasing heat. And so in 2015 itself, Lancet Commission had declared climate change is a medical emergency. Aren't we seeing this to be real today? Although in 2015 it felt like, okay, it might be a very remote event, today we know that it's a truth. Not just tropical diseases which are on the move, we can see that because of the kind of air travel and transport and advancement in all the technologies that are available. So all the diseases are moving, expanding their radar. So tropical diseases were limited to the tropical region initially, right? Now what is happening? Because the subtropical regions are also having an increase in temperatures, all these tropical diseases like Zika virus and chikungunya, dengue, all of these are also moving on to other countries. Did you ever hear of mosquitoes in America, North America especially? It's moving there as well now. So that's the kind of impact climate change is having. I just mentioned about this. And we are also losing a lot of land-based species. 50% of we are at a risk of losing, and we are at the verge of sixth mass extinction. The fifth mass extinction happened when we lost all the dinosaurs, and we've not seen such a massive loss of biodiversity and species till now, but we are just heading there. So what is the cost of carbon? If we want to quantify it and think of it in terms of money, all of these are going to have all of these effects, and we can also say that it is the number one threat to global economy today, because it's going to cause political instability, it's going to cause floods and mudslides, wildfires, ecosystem loss, water scarcity, our own way of life. And it's going to create climate refugees. Basically, it's going to affect everything around us, and it's also going to have its effect on the economy. I think we've not thought of it in this terms, but it's something very important we'll have to see. I think you all agreed in the beginning as well. So the question, must we change, has a definite answer that we will have to change. We must change. Now I think over to Ajay. He'll answer. Now we have seen that we must change, but are we going to change? Can we change? What can we do about it? Some of the questions that Ajay will answer here. from here
Thank
on.
you. Thank you, Sanjana. And hello, everyone. Firstly, thank you, Lamke Foundation and others for this opportunity. And thank you to all the attendees. We see over 263 attendees attending. It's really good that as young people, you are interested in a topic which looks always complex, but it is very simple, as you must have learned from the few slides that Sanjana tried to explain about it. I think all of you understand better about why we need to change, but can we change is the question, or must we change? Do we have the solutions? And of course, 99% of you said yes, we can change, and we can change things. We can change the course of this climate crisis and save not just the creatures that have equal rights to be on this earth, but also it's an existential threat for us. So let's look at some of the solutions to the climate crisis. And just as Sanjana pointed out about the different phenomena, the extreme weather events, we know right now in Hyderabad, what is the situation? You must have seen photos of that. You have seen examples of what happened a few months ago in Delhi, Noida area. So there are so many parts of our country right now facing in floods. There are places which have extreme weather, like in last year alone in Bihar, over 200 people died because of heat strokes. And there's so many examples of extreme climate events. All of these is just telling us and giving us a reminder about how serious this climate crisis is. So let's look at some of the solutions that we have in hand. Next slide, please. Yeah. So one of the solutions that we always talk about is moving to renewables or increasing our capacity. And some of the solutions includes wind. So in 2000, the projection was that the world wind capacity will reach 30 gigawatt by 2040. That was the estimate that people had. But what actually happened was way beyond. In reality, the world by 2018 moved 20x, and India is one of the leaders in the renewable sector. And I'll mention some figures about what India is doing. So this is a graph which shows how exponentially the capacity of wind is moving, and what is the total power of wind capacity. We will come together and see that how wind alone can solve the climate crisis. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah. So wind alone has a capacity to generate 20,000 times, 40 times more electricity than the world requires. And similar story with solar, which is even more drastic. If you look at the solar market, there was a projection in 2002 that the world will be able to just add 1 gigawatt per year of capacity, but in reality it was 17x. In fact, in India we have overachieved our target that we set earlier uh, for India, like for in 2018, like we saw in wind, in reality, we have closed 109 times. So this is how the solar market is increasing. There are a lot of factors which have led to this, the price and many other factors, improving in technology, and a lot of other factors, but these are positive stories. At the same time, we saw as I said, because of the costs going down of the cells, today the solar electricity which is generated is estimated to be 30% less than the traditional source of coal. So the market forces are also driving towards adoption of more solar. Next slide. So this is about India. If you see how exponential this graph looks, that is the kind of this thing. In fact, India is on plan towards 500 gigawatts capacity. Currently, India is at 135 gigawatts, which is about 35% of the total power generation in India. Some of the positives I would like to talk about: Indian Railways has committed to become net zero by 2030. It's one of the largest rail networks in the world. India has the first airport which went completely solar, the Cochin airport, which is one of I think the seventh largest airport in India, is completely runs on solar. The Kolkata airport has also had a very large target of 15 megawatts of ground solar and 2 megawatts of rooftop solar, is in the category of one of the green airports in the world. The Delhi airport is among the green category airports. At the World Solar Technology Summit very recently, speaking, our Renewable Energy Minister, Honorable R.K. Singh, mentioned that India is on par to actually exceed its capacity, the target which is set of 175 gigawatt by 2022, it might just reach 220 gigawatts of renewable capacity, which is excellent. Like, there are initiatives which we can talk about where corporates are coming. There is an initiative called RE100 where there are companies like Google, there are companies like Amazon, there are many Indian companies also joining this, which have committed that they will commit to 100% net carbon this thing by 2030. So next slide, please. Yeah, so we saw the wind has a 40 times more capacity to generate electricity that the whole world require. And for this case of solar, just imagine the amount of energy that we release every hour is enough to need for a complete year. So if we just harness the fraction of the energy which is available to us in abundance for free, and we are lucky that we are a country which is on the tropics. We have 300 days where sun is available, and we are harnessing this energy to not only create more jobs, but also control our fiscal deficits, because India depends a lot on importing fuel to run its economy. And this is just like one of the best things for India to do, not just in terms of environment, but also in terms of the economy and creating more jobs for our people. So next slide. Yeah, so we saw some of the examples, and this was just a few solutions that we talked about at large scale, how we can shift. And you remember the first slide where we saw that 24 hours, how much million tons of carbon emissions we are just kind of dumping in this thing. This is the solution, how we can move to more sustainable solutions. But all it boils down to, we have the problem, we know what a problem, we have the solutions. What lacks is, will we change? Do we have the will? Do we have the political will? Do we have the individual commitment to change things? This is a question, being an optimist, I somehow doubt these things, but there are some incidents which tells us that yes, we are moving towards a solution. And one of the most landmark agreements was the 2015 Paris Agreement, with, for the first time, every nation in the world agreed that there is acknowledge this problem and they committed to move towards it. Where India also committed to certain NDCs, like having 40% of its electric generation by 2030 to move towards renewables. And we are in part one of the few countries actually in part to achieve this, achieve the targets. But there are some issues also, like if you can go to back to that slide again, or the previous slide. Previous slide, yes. So if you look, among these countries, one of the countries, which is US, has legally withdrawn from these things. And it just depends on who comes to power in US is very critical for this climate leadership, because if the Trump government has actually pulled out of the presidential from the Paris Agreement commitment, and this sends out a very wrong message for the world to be this thing. So it's very important that when we are speaking, how we act and how we vote is very important for this thing. So when we talk about how can we contribute to the solution, there are a lot of ways that we can contribute to the solutions, and which includes raising our voice. So we have seen so many protests happening. We can move to the next slides. We have seen how the youth today are the main kind of taking this movement forward. We all know that about Greta Thunberg now. She has become one person who has given a thrust to this entire movement, with bringing young school students in the front of this crisis, and they have become the voice. We have seen such aggression from students, so many marches, so many protests. We know about the Fridays for Future movement. We know there are so many movements which are taking place, and the amount of coverage that climate crisis gets right now is increasing. And so it all about the youth now. Youth are at the forefront of this things, and this is how you can also be part of it. If you can join these voices, you can be part of these movements. You can raise your voice. There are things that you understand, and you can explain to your elders. You can take action at individual levels, and also start talking about climate change in your circles. So that is one of the ways you can contribute to this crisis, because as we said, your generation will be the person who will be spending most of the time these things, and most of these problems are not something which you are directly responsible for. It is all problems that you inherited because someone else did do what they were supposed to do. But to solve the problem, you could be the last generation who could do anything about it, because there are scientists which are telling us that if we do not address the problem within certain time, there will be irreversible damage, and we will not be able to change things after that. Next slide, please. So there are countries like China and India which are both on track to overachieve their targets, which I briefly mentioned. Also, India is actually going to overachieve its targets, and it's one of the few countries actually who is in line with its climate targets. Next slide. So that's the voice. We can join the voices, the votes, and choices to fight climate crisis. Choices includes how we can lead a low carbon lifestyle. How can we be mindful about our consumption, about what we purchase? Do we really need what we are buying? And those are the few things that we can be mindful about our choices. Choices actually make a lot of difference. Like, for example, food alone makes a huge difference. About 30% of the carbon emission, or 1/3 of the carbon emissions, actually is from agriculture sector. And we in India waste a lot of food. About 1/3 of the food which is generated never reaches someone's plate. It gets wasted, and we still have a problem of hunger. So a simple choice of being mindful about consumption can actually make a lot of difference. Next slide. Yes, next slide. Yes. Yes. So you can be part of this climate. I represent the Earth Day Network. So if you have any, if you want to follow some of our programs, you can follow us at the Earth Day Network Facebook page, which generally uploads a lot of programs. And that's it from my side. We can take few questions, and then we can talk about some of the programs. So Sanjana, you can also look at the questions this thing if you want to take up any of these questions. So maybe I can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
before that, I think we can put out the poll questions.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, by then we can have a look at the Q&A. Are we putting up the polls now?
Yeah, it is on, Sanjana. The polls are on, and the results are there. And it's showing thawing permafrost is 1%. What is the largest source of global warming pollution is the question. And 1% is thawing permafrost. Second is air transport, which is 2%. Burning of fossil fuels is 94%, and landfills is 3%. So these are the results for the polls for the question.
Okay. They've all got it right, though.
So the next question, poll question up is climate change linked to global pandemics such as COVID-19? And the attendees are voting. And the vote number is increasing. Just wait for everybody to vote. 64% have voted. 70% have voted. Yes, and the results are there. So yes is 67%, no is 14%, and maybe is 19% for this particular poll.
Was this question, is climate change linked to global
Yes,
pandemic?
is climate change linked to global pandemics such as COVID-19? So yes is 67%, no is 14%, and maybe is 19%.
Okay.
So the next poll is up, and it is, do you believe your actions can help solve climate crisis? And the attendees are voting. We'll just wait for a moment so that everybody just votes in. 66% have voted. They're still voting. Okay. So for the do you believe your actions can help solve climate crisis is yes, 93%. No is still 1%. Maybe is 7%. So still there is a doubt, but yes, majority do believe that their actions can help solve climate crisis.
All right. So I think there was someone who was asking, what can I do as a youth to make all the people aware about all this climate change, and what are the solutions which they and I can do? So I think I'll take that question up. Like the last question we put up, most of us or some of us might feel, I know I want to change, or we know that there is an option to change, but how do we actually go about, doing this? So let me give you just few examples. Like we saw, now we know after the presentation at least that the major cause of global warming pollution is burning of fossil fuels. That is the petrol we use for all our cars and bikes, and coal also. We also use coal, and we burn fossil fuels for electricity. These are some of the major chunks where the fossil fuels are burned for. So if we can switch over to alternatives for these few causes to start off with, it can start to make a difference. So let me quickly take you through a routine, a day in a person's life, and tell you some of the instances where let's not talk about the authorities taking some action and the PM doing something, or some other organization doing something. Let's see what we can do in our own daily lives. Say in the morning you wake up, you would use a plastic toothbrush to brush your teeth. Instead, switch over to a bamboo toothbrush, or a piece of that meswak stick, which we get, neem stick as well. So we might think, how are these affecting? Because plastic ultimately ends up in the ocean, and again, to recycle that, or it's not basically a circular product, which it's not biodegradable. That also is going to become part of the problem. So that could be the first switch. And then when you're going to your school, instead of going by car or taking the drop by bike, try if you could walk along with your friends to school. That's going to save up some of your that's going to bring down your carbon footprint. And next thing, like your breakfast and your lunch and dinner, try to switch over to vegetarian dishes, because they some of the non-vegetarian dishes or meat, when we consume meat and dairy products, they also contribute to a lot of our carbon footprint. There is no mandate here. If you just have an option, or if you have the will to do it, try and do it. If you can't do it on all 7 days, try doing it on 1 day per week, or even to start off with 1 day per month. That will help. And if because we also spoke about how hot India is getting, instead of using ACs, try to open up your windows during the day so that cooler air comes in, and try closing your doors and windows with thicker curtains by evening, so that all that you can somehow manage the heat as well without air conditioning. That is also one of the options. These are some of the alternatives which you can start switching to, and these are the smallest actions which will definitely help all of us in going a long way and tackling this crisis. Ajay, if you want to add points to this, please go ahead and you can take on the next question.
Yeah, I think it covers mostly. So I'll just talk about a very small effort we made during the lockdown. It's called eachonesaveone.com. It's a simple form, Google form. We have partnered with a team of researchers in Chennai. They have come up with 9 simple mantras where you can adopt to save 1 unit of electricity daily at your households. It's very simple mantra. How cleaning your refrigerator or cleaning the AC filter, switching to LED, all of these things. Very simple things. 8 of them require no investment. It saves you money, in fact. There are some examples so that you can make changes to your diet, how much what you buy, be mindful. So these are very simple things that you can do. And I always say this, that a few of us being 100% zero waste or 100% zero carbon will have lesser impact probably than a large number of people actually being more mindful and being more sustainable in action in reality. So it's just starting point. Wherever you can start small, but start something. That's very important. Whatever you feel, if you feel that plastics are a big issue, start with something with plastics, because it's a very complex issue and everything needs to be addressed. So whatever you feel attached to, if you feel more attracted towards greenery, start with some urban gardening, some planting initiatives. What do you want to do? So it's a huge opportunity for you to find what is your interest and start working on it. Find the small things that you can start with. I'll give you one more example of something which became a very big initiative. When there was this Chennai crisis happening, there was this satellite image of Chennai going zero, moving around. And that time in Kolkata, which is where we don't even pay for water, we don't have a water tax fee. There is so much water is wasted in our city. And we have this community taps on the streets of Kolkata where there was no taps actually. So these are faucets with no taps, and the water keeps flowing. So what we did, one of my friends, we now went 52 weeks just before the lockdown started. We went all 52 weeks going around, took a plumber, and we fixed over 1,500 of these taps, saving thousands and thousands of liters. So this is just a simple idea. We did nothing, this thing. So these are small initiatives which you can think about and you can start working in your domains. I'll start a few other questions. So first question that I can see is global warming just climate change? So I think global warming is just one of the symptoms of climate change. Like for say COVID-19, you say the fever, cough, these kind of symptoms. Global warming is just one of the symptoms. Climate change includes other extreme weather events, floods and everything. All of these are symptoms of climate change. So if climate change is a disease, global warming is this kind of a symptom to it. So that's one. So I like this question from Sanchit, which is socio-economically speaking, what should countries consider priority? Among SDGs and climate change, I think they go very much in hand. You cannot achieve SDGs without addressing the climate change, because if you look at problems like problems of achieving zero hunger or any SDG you talk about, if climate change crisis explodes the way it is right now, we will never be closer to SDGs. If you see, the pandemic alone has pushed us very much away from the SDGs, and a climate crisis could be much worse. So to answer that question simply, I think it's not two different goals. I feel SDG is the larger umbrella where climate change is very important, and it would have the most maximum result in terms of preventing a crisis, and it will take us much closer to SDGs. So those are very much aligned. All the efforts will take us towards those things. A very good example is the whole green recovery thing that we are talking about right now. And there are reports which says that if we invest coming out of this pandemic, if we invest a lot of our money towards creating a more green economy, the results and the investment result will be much better. So that's, I think, and if it answers your questions, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Ajay and Sanjana, I think you have took the Q&A session and you have clubbed all the questions and answered it very well. I would just like to ask all the attendees, all the young minds present here, something. I mean, what is the one thing you can start doing from tomorrow to fight climate change? So all the attendees can maybe share this on the chat box, like very fast, very quickly. We would like to know what is the one thing you can start doing from tomorrow to fight climate change. And we are getting so many answers: plant some trees, composting, use cycle instead of activas, cleaning AC filters or the plant. So many. So they're all pumped up, they're all ready to take initiatives on their end, start on their end and make a change. I can really see, okay, there are lot of suggestions and interaction happening in the comment section right now. And it definitely means that you understand the situation and you want to act on it. And as said, act now. And I would like to thank Ajay and Sanjana for such an insightful session and informing us about the extensive impact of climate change, and to inform us more about global warming. Some elements were sure alarming, but I think that is important for people or attendees to know that now is the time to act. And this is a collective issue and we together need to solve the issue. And with that, I would like to thank all the attendees who have joined here. We will be sharing uh, a feedback form link in the chat box for you to fill. So once you fill the feedback form, you will be receiving the e-certificates of participation on the email ID that has been shared in the feedback form. The feedback form will be shared on the chat box. My teammates will be sharing it in the chat box. So I would request all the attendees to please stop messaging for some time so that you get to see the link in the chat box. And we'll be also sharing this feedback form link on your mail IDs. And soon after the session ends, the feedback form will also be available to you on the screen and you can fill it up and submit it. And with that also, I would like to announce the next session, which will be happening in the November, which the session will be again in partnership with Global Shapers Delhi, and it will be a practical session that will focus on actions and campaigns that school students can lead, take up to work towards clean air and reduce climate change. So it will be more about how to run a campaign or how to take up initiatives and what are the kind of like practical activities that you can take to lead the initiatives. So do join the session. We will be sharing the details about the session and we'll be sharing it through various social media platforms of Lung Care Foundation. We'll be sharing it through WhatsApps. We'll be sharing it through mail. We'll be intimating about the session time to time. And we'll be sharing the e-certificate to all the attendees on Friday. And with the e-certificate, there will be the registration link for the next section. So you can register for the next session very well in advance. So with that, I would really like to thank the speakers and the entire team of Global Shapers community, especially Sanjana and Ajay for presenting and briefing us, like giving us a wonderful presentation, and Ketan also for joining and letting us know about the different initiatives of Global Shapers community. The entire team, we thank you so much. And I would like to thank my team, LCF. They have been helping and supporting for putting up this session on the back end. And I would like to thank Professor Dr. Arvind Kumar, Rajiv Khurana sir, Abhishek Kumar, Matrushri ma'am, Kritika, Siddharth, Hamid, Shalini, Lini, Neha, for helping us to, helping together and putting up this event and making it a huge success. And last but not least, all the young minds, all the attendees who have joined the session today. This is a reason like for positivity, like you people joining this session shows the shows a positivity and optimism that the youth today are understanding the situation and want to act upon the situation and will definitely take up initiatives to make a change. With that, I see more and more people commenting on the chat box now also on the initiatives that they want to take up. We would definitely connect with you in the next session and we will be talking more about the practical actions and campaigns. So do join for the session. This will be in continuation with this session only. And do fill the feedback form for e-certificates, and we'll be duly sharing it on Friday. So with that, we would like to wind up today's session. I would just simply say, keep inspiring and act upon the things that you want to make a difference. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for joining in, everyone. Judith,
Thanks
I think
a lot, Judith, for making this happen.
I think they're not able to open the feedback form, and yeah.
We'll share it to the email ID as well, so they might get it through that also. And as soon as the session ends, there will be a pop-up, so they'll get that.